At the $160 price point, the Spectre Performance Cold Air is going to be the most affordable way to slap an aftermarket system on your 2009 and 2014 5-liter powered F-150 while giving you a little bit more flash thanks to the polished finish. Now this is a no tune required intake and it is also CARB certified, making it appealing to truck owners in all 50 states. Install is going to be extremely straightforward here, guys, so expect a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter with a little bit more detail to come later in the video. So right up front, guys, I'm going to say this intake is going to be a great choice for those truck owners out there who are maybe more concerned with saving a few bucks as opposed to going with a big, flashy, recognizable brand name that might offer you maybe a few more bells and whistles or features like better materials for the tube, for instance, or maybe even a slightly more elaborate airbox design. The Spectre here, on the other hand, is going to be all business and is essentially as bare bones as they come in the world of aftermarket intake systems. You are going to be receiving that brightly polished aluminum intake tube. You're also going to be looking at a reusable high flow filter, and then last but not least, of course, your heat shield here, which does tap in to the lower portion of your factory airbox. And that's actually a design I really do enjoy because it will still incorporate the factory cooled air ducting, helping to pull that nice fresh cool air from the front of the truck while sealing to the underside of your hood, blocking out any hot engine bay air. But as I said earlier, guys, don't expect any big flashy logos anywhere on the Spectre here, and that actually might be a good thing in the eyes of some owners. Instead, the only flash you're getting here comes from that polished aluminum intake tube, which is a bit of a rarity in the category. In fact, only the Series 77 and maybe 1 or 2 other options are going to give you that polished finish, but keep in mind those other options, like the K&N for instance, are going to be nearly double the price of the Spectre. Another important thing to point out, K&N actually owns Spectre, so yes, you are getting that K&N engineering behind this product. However, it is made overseas and thus the lower price point. But it is important to point out for those of you who might be thinking Spectre is just some no-name random intake on the site, because that really isn't the case. But with all that said, and at its core, the Spectre here is going to provide you with essentially everything most other options in the category will. The high flow reusable oiled filter, which obviously can be cleaned and reused over time. The polished aluminum intake tube, which we've covered already at length. The hardware and couplers, of course, and then last but not least, your heat shield here. So yes, this is an entry-level intake. There's no mistake about that. However, you still can look forward to some benefits with this particular option. First up on the benefits list, you're certainly going to hear this thing in action when installed, and that's a big thing a lot of our customers have actually pointed out in the customer review section. A big part of that is thanks directly to the open element design here with this particular option as opposed to a sealed enclosure like your factory airbox. Now, for whatever reason you didn't want to hear this extra noise, then I'd probably recommend sticking with the sealed enclosure. There are a few on the site to choose from companies like Air Raid, for instance, and even AFE. And the second big benefit a lot of owners look forward to when adding an aftermarket cold air to the rig is power, right? You're looking for a little bit more horsepower and a little bit more torque. And while Spectre doesn't give you any exact claims with their particular cold air, it's been my experience that you're going to be in the high single digit, low double digit ballpark without adding a tune. Sure, adding a custom tune on top of the cold air will certainly increase your gains overall, but for a no tune required system like this, a little bit more power and sound in addition to increased throttle response are some of your basic expectations. And if you're still a little apprehensive about the Spectre because of that low price point, I would highly recommend checking out the customer review section because it's overwhelmingly positive. And this is real world feedback coming from truck owners who are actually pounding the pavement with the Spectre installed on their Coyote. And again, pretty positive feedback is the general consensus that I'm seeing from this budget-friendly intake. Again, right around 160 bucks is what you're looking at for the Spectre here, making it the most affordable currently in the category and by a pretty wide margin. But let's quickly switch gears and talk briefly about the installation. And I'm happy to say if you have some basic hand tools, including a socket set and a T20 Torx bit, and the slightest bit of mechanical know-how, you should be able to get the aftermarket cold air intake in place. Therefore, again, 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter here is what you can expect, and anywhere from 30 minutes to maybe an hour of your time, depending on how fast you work, to get everything in place. To Getting started, you will need to remove the factory intake first. So go ahead and loosen up the clamp at the throttle body, remove any hose connections and that mass airflow electrical connection, and then unclamp the upper portion of your air box and pull out the entire intake tube assembly in one piece. Once the factory system is out of the way, you can get to work installing the new Spectre here, starting with transferring over that mass airflow sensor to the intake tube. Drop in the new heat shield here, bolt everything up, tighten up all your clamps of course. Make sure all of your hoses are connected in addition to that mass airflow electrical connection, and your installation is complete. So in closing, the Spectre Cold Air might not be the fanciest intake in the category, but it will deliver the key components of an aftermarket intake for a fraction of the price of the competition. So be sure to check one out for your 5-liter rig right here at AmericanTrucks.com.